how do I manage my anger with a person who takes me for granted, abusive, never accepts their mistakes, and puts the blame on me?
See, that is a very long sentence you have made, which mixes a whole lot of different things together. Okay, so I need to break it up. So, Flora, can you just read that question again?
Yes, uncle.
Or put it on the chat? I don't know if it's there.
Yeah, it's on the chat
Yeah,
box.
there on the chat. Okay. See, first he says takes me for granted. Basically, you're saying that they kind of assume things about us. So that's what we basically mean by taking me for granted, or kind of assumes that I will fulfill a role which he or she wants me to perform. So one, I change my outlook in life, that I am here to build relationships and be a blessing to people. I don't mind being taken for granted occasionally, and I don't necessarily mind people expecting me to do things for them. We just do it. But if it becomes something which I find difficult to do and which is not convenient for me to do, I need to just express myself and talk to them. But obviously, you need to do that without anger. So you need to first get over your anger and then tell them that, listen, you're expecting me to do this, but I can't do it, and I'm not going to be doing it. The other thing is, he said they don't accept their mistakes. So that means, see, they are having a perception on what happened, that it was not their mistake. And you're having a perception that it was their mistake. And this is where I said we need to learn to listen. We need to try and understand, why do they think that it is not their mistake? And of course, they may blame someone else and they'll say it's all that person's fault and things like that. Now that gives you an opportunity to start trying to counsel the person and explain to the person or show that person that it's not necessarily the other person's fault whom they're blaming. So they need to understand how they need to deal with the situation. And you said he doesn't accept their mistake and puts the blame on me. So then you need to be able to listen to the person until you understand why the person thinks you're responsible for it. Now, till you have come to a spot or a point where what that person is saying appears at least reasonable, you may not agree with it, but at least you can understand the logic of what that person is saying, then only can you begin a dialogue and start building a relationship with that person. So yeah, I'm not talking about anger so much as I'm talking about building a positive relationship. Because if you continue like this, the relationship is going to become worse and worse and worse and worse, till finally the relationship is going to break completely. So if I want to see that the relationship remains, I need to start listening to that other person and understand why that person is like that. Once I understand why the person is like that, then I can start dealing with that person and start trying to help that person to get past their issues. I don't know if that makes sense. Is there any follow-up question to that? And of course, if a person is abusive, frankly, I would like that in such cases, we report them. Anyone who's abuser should be reported. But what is happening in India, because we don't want to report, the abusive people just get away with anything. A person may blame me, that's different. But if a person is becoming abusive, that person needs to be dealt with. And I would say they need to be reported to the higher authorities. And I know that reporting to the higher authorities in India may get you into trouble, but I would rather get into trouble than let it go like that.
Okay, uncle. So we'll go on to the next question. If something is going bad in front of you and you can't do anything, so what you will do without getting anger?
Right. See, there are some things you can deal with, there are some things which you cannot deal with. Okay. Now, you may not like, for instance, the economic policy of the government of India. Nothing can do about it. And there's absolutely no point getting angry because you'll only get ulcers. You're not going to be able to sort it out. Now, if there is something is going bad in front of me, I need to know which ones I can deal with, which ones I can't deal with. Which ones I can't deal with, I just hand it over to God. I said, that's not my problem. But if I can deal with it, that is my problem and I need to deal with it. But if I'm beyond my position or capability to deal with, I said, I'm not going to break my head on that. But now, for instance, let me take some concrete cases. If I find in the organization where I'm working that an injustice is being done to a particular individual by the management, but since I have no control over the management and nothing I can do, I can't fight the management and nothing I can do about it. But I can be a help and a blessing to the person to whom injustice is done. I can go there and help him manage his anger so that he doesn't create more harm and trouble for himself. I can speak up whenever I have an opportunity or a forum to speak up. So we need to be able to identify when we can do something about it. And when I can't do something about it, I need to be able to commit it to God and not let that anger within me destroy me.
All right. I think we can move on to the next question. Okay, the next question is pretty big. If a father in his 40s has anger management issues, not flexible in his routine, does not treat his wife with the love and respect she deserves, this has affected his teenage daughter greatly, that she has turned rebellious, has intermittent, explosive episodes of 10 minutes where she tends to hurt her own mother without any remorse later, throws and breaks valuable things around her when she doesn't get what she wants, bouts of eating that has made her obese, very unproductive. How to psycho-educate this resistant father?
Now, the first thing to understand, you cannot psycho-educate anyone who's not willing to be psycho-educated. Okay. So they one of the hard reality they realize even in counseling. I'm not a counselor, by the way, but when we want to tell people go and get counseling, unless they are willing, they cannot get counseled. You can take them to the counselor, but there's nothing the counselor can do unless that person is willing. So first, that person has to recognize that he has a problem. And if he doesn't recognize he has a problem, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. But a person whom we can deal with is the daughter who is behaving crazily. And that's exactly the point which Jobin raised the question in the beginning. What is the craziest thing you have done when you're angry? So she's angry and she's doing crazy things. So if she's willing, we can psychoeducate her that what you're doing is not helping either you or anyone else. So you need to get control over your emotions. You need to get control over your anger, and you need to start behaving in a way in which is going to help the situation rather than make it worse. Well, hopefully she would be more open to to be able to deal with the situation than the father is. Okay, so to actually give a proper answer to the question, I would say that if you want to get to the father, you need to first convince him that he needs help. So once he recognizes and accepts that he needs help, then only you can psychoeducate him and you can start dealing with it. Whereas I think the girl will recognize that she needs help and so may be easier to deal with.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Sir, isn't it also because of the consequences of the other person's act that makes us hard to survive in this world and end up killing ourselves, especially when the judgmental society usually blames the victim?
See, situations vary, so I don't want to put all situations in the same box. The fact is, we are living in a dog eat dog world, and that's not going to change. We are living in a world which teaches you from your childhood to be highly competitive and put the other person down. And so this is something which I've been trying to tell people you need to get out of. You need to drop out of the rat race. But the fact is you're living in a rat race. And because you're living in a rat race, you're going to find that people are going to make it hard for you to survive. So now when you say it's hard for you to survive, what does it mean? So when I'm looking at my profession, everyone is trying to put me down. Why? They're trying to put you down so that you don't get the promotion, they get it. So I said, let them get it. I'm not worried about promotions. So if I can forget about promotions, they can't put me down. I said, let them put me down, let them say anything they want, it doesn't make a difference. Ultimately, I focus on doing my work and I get my work done. So what happens once I develop this victim mentality, that I am a victim of people, I'm a victim of circumstances, I'm going to be exceedingly unhappy for all my life. I'm going to destroy my health. And I'm not going to be good in my profession or my work, or I'm not going to be good at anything. So I find that the first step in redeeming myself is to get out of the victim mentality. I'm not a victim. I realize I'm in a dog eat dog world, but I'm going to be different and I'm going to change my environment. I'm not going to be a part of the rat race. I'm not going to be part of the dog eat dog, but I'm going to see that I can serve the people and the community where I am so that I'm a blessing to them. So when I have that attitude, well, they say bad things about me, they don't want me to get a promotion and all that. I said, that's fine. That doesn't bother me. I'm here to see that they get the promotion. I'm here to see that I can help them. And let me see how I can be a blessing to them. So I need to change the outlook. And for that, I need to get out of the victim mentality that I'm a victim. I'm not a victim. I am in control of the situation in which I find myself, and I'm going to deal with the situation in which I find myself so that I will be happy in that situation.
Okay. The next question is, what should we do when people fail us in relationships? What to do when we are not able to maintain relationships because of my insecurity, thus always getting angry even at the little things they do?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, see, you have already identified the problem in the question. You have said that you have insecurity. So you need to identify why do you have insecurity, and you need to deal with that. Because your insecurity is making you react in a negative manner to situations which are there in your relationship with people. Now, there are two things in this. One is, if my attitude is that people should be doing things for me, I'm always going to be having a difficult relationships. If my attitude is that I'm going to be doing things for people, then you'll find that a lot of easing takes place in your relationships. But when I say I want to control a person, then I become very demanding in my relationship. I don't want that person to be doing things which I feel are ignoring me and things like that. I don't want to give that person freedom. And that's really sad because I've seen a lot of parents, for instance, they don't want to give freedom to their children. Even when the children are 30 or 40 years old, they want to control the children. They won't give them freedom. And that's essentially because of their insecurities. And so we should not be like that. So the problem is us. And so what happens if you have a strong community where you feel safe, you will find that your insecurity reduces. And in fact, this has been one of the arguments given for the joint family. They say within the joint family, you always find someone whom you can have a strong relationships with. But I'm not a great fan of joint families. I still prefer the nuclear family. But I need to be a person who does not want to control the people around me. And when I want to control the people around me, I find that I continuously keep getting angry over small things and little things. Rather than controlling the people around me, I should be serving them and to develop that kind of a serving attitude. But ideally, it will be to recognize, okay, if I am having insecurity, let me recognize it, let me deal with it, if required, go for counseling so that I can get rid of that insecurity, and I can be back in control of myself.
Makes sense. Before we move on to the next question, I'd like to remind those who are deciding to leave, please don't forget to give us your feedback. The link will be put on the chat box. The next question is, my wife's parents had anger issues and never paid attention to her needs. That has made her an angry person, and she's showing the same characteristics of her parents. When I tell her, she doesn't accept. It's affecting our relationship and our children. What do I do?
Make her attend lighthouse programs so that she starts recognizing that there is a problem. As I said, see, one of the things that at least I have found, a person who doesn't recognize that they have a problem cannot be helped. So the first step is to enable that person to recognize that they have a problem. Now, one of the things which I remember we did in our training institute, we did for people who are lecturing and faculty. We videoed them. We ran a video of the whole class. Then after the class was over, we played back the video and showed them all the stupid things they did. And they said, I didn't do that. I said, they have the video. No, I didn't. No, that's what you did. So what I'm saying is that most people are totally unaware of what they are doing. So if I can literally get a person's permission and video the person's say, relationship with the children and how they behave, and then play it back to them, it'll be an eye-opener to them to see how they are behaving actually. Because your mind shuts out everything. So there should be some means of enabling them to actually see what is happening and what is the reality. And then the other thing would be if we can see an incident happens today, let it go. Don't break your head on it. Next day, get all the people involved in the incident, the children, the wife, and all of them together to sit down and discuss the incident. Step by step, what happened, where it went, and how it went. Because you need to wait till the people are cooled off. Their tempers are off, they have come down back to normal. That time you can start analyzing the incident as to what happened and why it happened. And that may help the person to start seeing that there are things in that person's behavior which needs to be corrected. But as I said, the main problem in all this is that they are not aware that they need help. And because they are not aware that they need help, it becomes very difficult to deal with it. And the same thing is true about us. Because, we are saying that the wife is getting angry, but very often we are also contributing to the cause and we don't realize it. So this kind of open dialogue between the wife and the husband and the children may even alert you to problems that you are creating by saying things and doing things in the mix with the noise. I don't know if that is something which you feel can work.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question. When we think that the problem is with us, doesn't it lead to always blaming us and feeling guilty?
I hope not. See, there's always this one reaction that I am not in control of the situation. So, it's my fault. And I keep doing this and I go on a guilt trip. What I'm trying to say is that I can be in control. I don't have to be on the guilt trip. So I need to recognize that I can solve the problem. So when I'm saying taking the blame on myself, I'm taking a blame on myself so that I can solve the problem and I can handle it in a better manner in the future. Okay, now when I say the blame, let's try and distinguish between what is happening. Okay, number one, I said anger is right. There's nothing wrong with anger. Okay, so now the person who made me angry may have actually done something wrong. I'm not saying that is wrong. Getting angry because that person had done something wrong is perfectly justified. What I said is the problem, how you deal with the anger. And how you deal with the anger is entirely your fault. You can't blame the other person for how you deal with the anger. Now, if I'm able to get over my anger and then deal with it in a rational manner, I'm not harming myself. But if I don't deal with that anger, and I find that the anger keeps coming every day, so literally every day I'm angry about something or the other, I'm harming my health, I'm harming my peace, I'm harming my happiness, I'm harming myself. So when I said that you are responsible for how you respond to the situation, I'm not saying that you are responsible for making yourself angry. You did not make yourself angry. It's the other person who made you angry. Probably because the other person did something which is wrong. So I'm not saying that you blame yourself for that. You blame yourself when you mishandle the anger and make the position worse. Do you understand the difference? Whoever asked a question, I hope you understand the difference. I'm not saying that you're responsible for the anger. I'm saying you're responsible for how you deal with the anger. Okay. So you're not like going into a guilt trip. Now, for instance, now let me take a more practical case. You're driving on the road. Somebody drives badly, and so you have to swerve. And so then you overtake that guy, stop the car, and you stop his car and then have a big fight with him on the road. Now that is handling the situation badly. That person made a mistake, but you didn't have to respond in that manner. You could have responded by saying, okay, this is India, people drive like that, and just forget about it and carry on. But by letting the anger take control of you, you have reacted in a bad manner. You have raced after him, stopped him on the road, and started fighting with him. Now, that is what I'm saying you are responsible for. You're not responsible for the original incident which started the whole thing. So I hope you can see the difference between the two.
Okay. We have just 5 more minutes before we come to a closure. We'll take few minutes before that. Sir, you said we should learn to forgive. I've been hurt and betrayed my whole life by my family members. It's easy to say that we should forgive. How do I forgive them?
See, the way I dealt with such situations, I said I'm not dependent on others. Others are dependent on me. I'm not going to permit myself to be dependent on others. So they can't let me down. I'm in control of my life and I will do with my life what I want, not what they want. So I said I'll take control of my life and I will carry on. And the thing is, if I don't forgive, I'm only making myself miserable. If I am making that other person miserable, I can understand not forgiving. But by not forgiving, I'm not making his life miserable. That person couldn't care less. I am the one who's suffering. So what is the point of carrying that suffering with me? So let me just forget it. I said, okay, these people are bad people, fine. I have no problem. They are bad people. That's up to them. They have to answer God, not me. But I have been given a life by God, and I'm responsible for my life, and I'm going to take charge of my life, and I'm going to build my life. And what these people do is not going to affect it. And what is my life? My life is to be a blessing to people, to be helpful to people, and see how I can help them build their life, especially when they have also gone through similar difficult situations. See, turn the focus away from yourself. Okay. See, we all grew up in all kinds of environments. And believe me, my environment was pretty pathetic. And because that environment was bad, we ended up as an alcoholic for almost 15 years. Now, there's no point of blaming them for me being an alcoholic. Ultimately, that's my decision and what I do. But at some stage, we decided to take control of our life and move on and forget the past and don't carry any anger or any bitterness within you. It's just not worth it. So that's okay. What I am trying to say is I'm forgiving them because I know there's no point in not forgiving them. Not forgiving them not going to solve the problem. And I am carrying the blame that I am in this situation because of them. I said, no, I'm not in this situation because of them. I'm in this situation because of me, how I responded to them. So they have done what they wanted to do. That's up to them. No problem. But now I take control of my life and I start doing the things which I feel I need to be doing. And I rebuild my life. And in rebuilding my life, if I don't forgive them, I'm harming myself. The ability to rebuild my life reduces. Now, I'm speaking from experience, remember. I'm talking about the town drunk, moving from town drunk to being successful. So that is a transition which can happen.
All right. We'll move on to the next question. We have a few more questions to cover before we finish. How are we supposed to know the reason for our anger?
Fairly easy. Every time you get angry, you note down what is it that triggered that anger. And so when you find some triggers are being repeated, you know that is what is causing you angry, and that's the reason for your anger. And then you need to find out why is that a trigger to my anger? Why is it that that particular thing is making me angry? So that is something which you need to start tracing from your own life.
The next question is, can you please mention some of the ways to stop getting angry?
Basically, what I said, I'm repeating myself here. Basically, what I said is stop worrying about yourself, start worrying about others. So when you start giving priority to others, you'll find automatically you get less angry. Second thing, I said identify what is it that is making you angry. Then once you identify what is it that is making you angry, start asking yourself, why do you want that? Can you get rid of your desire for that? So once you're able to control your desire for that, automatically your anger will start coming down on that. So that is the two things which I basically said. Instead of desiring worldly things, desire relationships. And secondly, identify what is the triggers and then see how you can quieten those triggers by either giving up their desires and things like that.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, we got, this will be our last question. How to have a positive relationship when the other person is not ready to listen?
Yeah, the only way you can have a positive relationship when the other person is not willing to listen is you listen. You listen to the other person, try and understand why the other person doesn't want to listen. Try and understand what is driving the other person. And once you have understood what is driving the other person, then you'll find that you can start communicating with that person. Till then, you can't.
Okay, so the last question was not the last question. It looks like we have few more questions. Um, what if people who can't defend themselves are assaulted physically? Can we resort to violence for their sake?
Frankly, yes, but please don't make it a police case.
Okay.
Basically, what you're doing, you're trying to separate them and trying to see that they stop beating up each other. But don't make it the reverse. Now that A was beating B, now you and B get together and beat up A. That's not what we are looking at. What we're looking at is stopping the violence, not continuing the violence. So to stop the violence, you will step in and see that the fight breaks up, and then you will deal with A who's creating the violence and try and listen to him, try and understand him, and then try and explain to him why what he's doing is wrong.
I got a question directly, which I'll read it out. We can read from John 2, verse 13, that Jesus got angry and he said, stop turning my father's house into a market. What can we learn from that?
See, basically exactly what I said. Absolutely nothing wrong in being angry. It is how you deal with the anger, which is the problem. Okay. So in that particular situation, I mean, if you're looking for a Bible exposition, in that particular situation, there were two people who were offended or harmed. One was that of the court of the Gentiles, and the Gentiles were not able to worship because of all this going on. So Jesus cleaned up the court so that the Gentiles could have access to the worship. So it's basically like the question which you asked: if a person can't defend himself, do we resort to violence? So that is exactly the same situation. The Gentiles couldn't defend themselves. And so you find that Jesus deals with it. But that's what I've been repeatedly saying. Please recognize there's nothing wrong with anger. What is wrong is how you deal with the anger.
All right, so this will be the last question. I'm constantly haunted by a past memory of someone hurting me. How do I deal with this?
See, if this is continuously there, you need to go for counseling because you need to get past that. So I said, okay, he hurt me, fine, forget about it, carry on. But if I'm going to carry that memory with me, that is going to destroy my life, or at least weaken my performance in my life. So I have to deal with it. I cannot just ignore it. So all I would say is that if you're not able to forget it or put it behind you, you need to go for counseling so that a counselor can help you to deal with that event and you can put it behind you.